based on songs and stories, heroes of renown, the passing tales and glories that once was Dublin town.
I'm sure there's not many people here who read Business Plus every month. But the next time you're in Easton's or one of the newsagents, have a look at the shelves. Because the front page, the cover of this month's Business Plus is all about how William Martin Murphy was a great man who saved Ireland from the evils of Larkinism. So who was this William Martin Murphy? As well as being a newspaper magnate, a press baron, he had previously been an MP for the Irish Parliamentary Party, representing one of the Dublin constituencies in the House of Commons in London. He was a nationalist, a home ruler. In fact, he had refused to accept a knighthood from King Edward VII in 1907. He was on the anti-Parnell wing of the Irish Parliamentary Party. After the Kitty O'Shea affair, like, oh, William Martin, he wasn't standing for any of that sort of stuff. Even Parnell had to go. As well as owning newspapers, he owned Cleary's department store, the Imperial Hotel, another hotel whose name escapes me up in Donegal. He owned a construction company. One of the things his company built was the loop line, where the train is carried across the Liffey just down by Liberty Hall and Bus Hours. He owned, of course, the Dublin United Tramway Company. But it wasn't just that. He also had ownership and shares, very serious, significant ones, in railway companies in Britain, in Africa and South America. He also built tramways, not only in Dublin, but in Cork, in Belfast, in London, on the English South Coast, in Paisley in Scotland, and in Buenos Aires in Argentina. He was very much the Dennis O'Brien or the Tony O'Reilly of his day. On the 3rd of September, just a week into the dispute, Murphy organised a meeting of over 400 employers. That would be the vast majority of employers in Dublin, like, who employed more than a handful of people. At that meeting, they all agreed that they'd lock out all of their staff who refused to resign from the union and to give a pledge they would never join it. And furthermore, they set up a fund to help out any poor employer whose business suffered as a result. But it wasn't just this one incident, this one occasion in 1913 that showed Murphy to be a bit of a bollocks, to put it mildly. The following year, when the First World War broke out, and the workers of European countries were sent to murder each other with gun and bayonet over really a power grab for colonies in Africa and within Europe, a war to decide which would be the dominant ruling class. Will it be the Germans or will it be the British? It was obviously a war that ordinary people stood to gain absolutely nothing from, other than death, loss of limbs, loss of loved ones. What did Murphy do? Well, he was a recruiting officer for the British Army. He proposed to all his employer friends that they sack all their able-bodied male employees so that those workers would have no other choice but to enlist in the British Army if they weren't to starve. Because remember, at the time, there was no dole, there was no social welfare. If you didn't work, you starved. Although Murphy died in 1919, something that isn't very well known, his family continued to own the Irish Independent Group of newspapers until the early 70s, when Tony O'Reilly bought it over. We're now just going to go another wee bit down to the Jervis Shopping Centre. The reason we're rushing through it is, it looks like it's going to rain, and I know you're all delicate, and we want to get down to Church Street in time for the wreath laying to mark the people who died in the tenement collapse 100 years ago this week.